what is Animal Kingdoms, and how would it appeal to the Gateway and Filler Group fans?
So Animal Kingdoms is a game that combines hand management and area influence. Basically, you've got one deck, which is the Beast deck, and it's got 8 different suits of animals. Each of those has a 1 to 8 value. And basically, you have your hand of 4 cards, and you're going to play one of those cards into one of the 5 kingdoms. And the catch is you can only play to a kingdom if you adhere to its decree, which is essentially a placement rule. And the decrees can be anything from super simple, like you can only play odd cards, or you can only play this type of beast, to more complex rules that are affected by your neighboring kingdoms or even the entire state of the board. So it's area influence in that once you play a card to a particular kingdom, then you get to drop an influence cube there. And at the end of the round, whoever has majority in each kingdom will get the first place points, and then there are second and third place points. So you're sort of jockeying for position while at the same time trying to really manage your hand to set yourself up to really maximize the points.
How many players does it play, Stephen?
1 to 5.
Okay. And about how long does it take for your typical 3 or 4 person game?
It's about, depending on the players, but it's about 45 minutes. So, it kind of falls right into my style of game, which is you can set it up, you can teach it. It's like a 4-page rule book, so it's pretty light on rules, and get it played in under an hour. And really the game time's about the same from 1 to all the way up to 5 players, because you're using the same amount of essentially spaces to try and take over.
That hits my favorite category. Chris Kirkman always talks about it. He calls it the 1 hour wonder, or the power hour game, right? That's my favorite kind of game that you can get set up, taught, and played in about an hour. And Animal Kingdoms fits that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would say it is a great sort of gateway or filler game. Maybe a +1, because even though it's very simple and light on rules, there's quite a bit of strategy that you have to apply. And one of the things I kind of like about it is I'm a big fan of like classic card games. Right. So it sort of has that element with the hand management. I think of just like simple games like Linko or Coloretto or Parade and those kinds of things, where you're really just kind of examining your hand. So it's got that aspect, but then with the board game, it sort of brings it into a little bit more of that hobby game type feel. So to me, it's kind of a fun sort of blend.
I did some show prep, and I didn't realize that it wasn't always Animal Kingdom. Steve O'Rourke is checking in, and he says production looks gorgeous, and he loves hearing 1 to 5, and that's great that you have a solo option. But it wasn't always Animal Kingdoms, but it sure seems to fit that just perfectly. How did that come about?
So it was originally a deep sea fishing game.
Okay.
And I don't know why I picked deep sea fishing. I don't know. Maybe I was inspired by Fleet or something, and I like that theme. But so originally, you were going out into these seas, and there were actually 7 seas that you were going out to try and basically catch as many fish before it got fished out. So a lot of the mechanics were the same. But in that one, I actually didn't even have the decrees. It was more of a market manipulation game. So you were trying to fish the seas out and then go back to town and sell those fish for as much money as you could. And so I really kind of realized that game, it just didn't feel very innovative or unique out there. And so when I sort of added the decrees, that really kind of made me rethink the theme as well. So for a brief stint, it went to Interstellar Travel Agency, which don't ask me why that was a terrible theme. Actually, it's a great theme, but not for this game. I was just running across artwork, and I found these really cool retro, like sort of vintage NASA posters for like fictional destinations like Saturn and stars and whatnot. And I just said, oh, that would be such a cool theme for a game. And this happened to be the game I was working on. So I tried really hard to fit a square peg into a round hole and realized that it wouldn't fit. So then I kind of took a step back and looked at the mechanics and was just kind of like, okay, at its heart, really, what is this game about? And it was really about sort of dominating a territory. And that's where I just sort of got the idea for Kingdoms. And I think with the animals, I think the name just popped in my head, Animal Kingdom, so it kind of stuck. And then I really like the idea of animals as suits. Again, probably from maybe being influenced by Coloretto, or just the idea of having really super colorful cards that just looked really cool on the table. So that's sort of the genesis of how it came to be Animal Kingdoms.
Yeah, this artwork is absolutely gorgeous. But Jeremy the Game Geek Ninja reminds me, it's a Cardboard Edison Award winner. And that's how I learned to play the game. I'm trying to do a crowd surfing segment for you with Tom Basso, but they went on this big cruise, and so we got pushed back a little bit. But the best way I learned the game, Stephen, you did a fantastic job in your video for the Cardboard Edison Award. You actually show everybody how to play. Has it changed much since that video? If anybody goes out and finds that video,
a little bit. I mean, the scoring has definitely changed, and I think the biggest change is now it's a board game. So when I designed it, I was really going for like compact and efficient. So I designed it as just a deck of cards.
Look what we got here on the Gumbo. Hold on one second. Chuck Yeager just backed Animal Kingdom.
Oh, awesome. Thank you,
Chuck. Go ahead. Back to your story, Stephen. Tell Carl.
Yeah. So it was a card game originally, and I just did that thinking, just my brain was going to how can I make this as efficient as possible. And really when it got signed to Galactic Raptor, they really wanted to make it feel more thematic and feel more like you were taking over and dominating actual kingdoms. So they introduced the whole idea of the board, and then, obviously found an amazing artist to really bring it to life and stuff. So really those were the two biggest things.
Yeah, the way I saw it originally, it looked like it was laid out kind of in a line, and now they have this beautiful geometric design, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the game has a wraparound effect in terms of a lot of the decrees are affected by your left and right neighbor. So it's much more intuitive now because you're always going to have a left and right neighbor. Whereas with the line of cards, you kind of had to mentally make the wraparound to the other side, and that was just the state of the game that it was in at the time. So yeah, I think that was a really great improvement. And now I feel like the table presence is so much better.
Verla says, "Hey, Stephen, I was super excited to see Teal and Plum Animeeples. Are you involved in the stretch goals at all, or is that more Carl and Nick and Dan?"
No, yeah, that's all them. So I know they were really conscious of picking colors, not just to be a nice eye appealing, but I know they were trying to be cognizant of colorblind. So they picked I think a lot of colors for player colors and whatnot to try and maximize the visibility and readability of that for all players.
Ninja's throwing me for a loop here. Is there a hidden trader? I don't remember seeing that in any of the videos.
No, but you could. I mean, maybe that's the variant. Yeah. We'll work on that for the expansion.
Ninja, explain yourself. I'm not sure what that comment is about. I'm sure that has to do with some of our games at BGG. I bet that's what it is. Hey, Jesse Fernandez is checking in, saying good evening, everyone. Jesse, we're visiting with my guest here, Stephen Aramini, who designed the Animal Kingdoms game out on Kickstarter right now from Galactic Raptor. And I do have a question. The last couple of years, Renegade has swooped right into the Cardboard Edison Awards and scooped up everybody. And you went with Carla and Nick and Dan. What was that comfort level? What made you decide to go with Carla and Nick and Dan?
So Dan, I actually had a relationship with before because we worked on a game called Groves
Sure.
year before through his company, Letterman Games. So I already had a relationship with him, and I actually had shared an earlier version of the game, and he had not signed it because it was still sort of in the baking stage, I guess. But after Cardboard Edison, after it won that, then we talked again. And so I already had that sort of in with him. And I knew Carla only through Twitter, really.
He's prolific on social media.
Yeah. So he basically said they were partnering up and forming a new company, and they wanted this to be sort of the brand new game, the first game out of the chute with Galactic Raptor, and
awesome.
That they were basically ready to to throw all their energy into putting it out right away. So yeah, Cardboard Edison came out in, I think, March of last year, and it's on Kickstarter now. So it was a really quick process in terms of developing it. And so yeah, mostly it was just my comfort level with having worked with Dan before and my desire to work with Carla.